The tires screeched on the icy road as Officer Mason slammed the brakes out of nowhere. A German shepherd appeared barking wildly, its eyes burning with desperation. Mason's heart raced. What was it trying to tell him? What he uncovered, moments later, left him utterly speechless and forever changed the world outside. The patrol car was a quiet, snow-covered landscape officer. Mason gripped the steering wheel, his breath fogging up the windshield. He'd driven this route dozens of times before, but today the stillness felt different, eerily quiet, almost too still. Without warning, a dark shape burst from the snow-covered trees on the right side of the road. Officer Mason's foot slammed on the brakes and the patrol car skidded slightly. On the icy surface, his heart raced as the figure, a large German shepherd, darted into the middle of the road, barking loudly and frantically. The dog's thick coat was dusted with snow, its breath forming clouds in the bitter air. Its eyes locked on Mason's wild, with urgency. Mason's mind reeled. Why was a dog out here alone in this weather? He opened his door cautiously, stepping out into the biting cold. The snow crunched beneath his boots as he approached the dog, which stood firm, barking louder. The German shepherd's muscles were taut, its tail stiff as if it was pleading for Mason to follow. Mason hesitated, glancing up and down the desolate road. There were no other vehicles, no houses nearby, just an expanse of wilderness, blanketed in white. His instincts urged him to get back in the car, but something about the dog's behavior stopped him. The German shepherd let out a sharp bark, turning and sprinting a few steps back toward the trees, then pausing, looking over its shoulder as if saying, "Hurry." Mason's pulse quickened. Whatever was happening, it was clear the dog wanted him to follow. Officer Mason hesitated, torn between his instincts and the dog's clear desperation. He tapped his radio, alerting dispatch of his location in the unusual situation. "This is Mason. I've got a stray German shepherd flagging me down on Route 6, no sign of its owner, proceeding to investigate." His voice trembled slightly, betraying his unease. He crouched slightly, trying to make eye contact with the dog. "Hey, boy," he called softly. "What's going on? What are you trying to tell me?" But the dog didn't wait for a response. It trotted a few steps into the trees, then stopped and looked back with a sharp, insistent bark. Mason glanced back at his patrol car, hesitating. This wasn't procedure, but the dog's behavior was too deliberate to ignore. His pulse thrummed in his ears, the hairs on the back of his neck standing up. He drew his flashlight and followed the dog's lead, stepping off the icy road and into the snow-covered underbrush. The dog's ears perked up and it resumed its urgent leading behavior. Mason's breath quickened as he realized he was no longer simply dealing with a lost dog. Something was waiting to be found. The German shepherd moved with purpose, weaving between snow-laden trees, its bark now softer but still insistent. Mason stumbled through the thick drifts, struggling to keep up. His flashlight beam cut through the haze, illuminating a narrow trail carved into the snow. It was almost as if someone or something had passed through here earlier. His breath came in short puffs as he tried to match the dog's pace. His senses heightened every crack of a branch or crunch of snow. setting his nerves on edge. Suddenly, the dog stopped, its head low, ears twitching. It sniffed the ground furiously, its paws digging into the snow. Mason crouched, shining his light on the spot. There were faint footprints, almost erased by the fresh snow. Human footprints heading deeper into the woods. His pulse quickened. Someone had been here. The dog's nose twitched, and it gave a low growl. Glancing back at Mason without waiting for a command, it resumed its urgent pacing, leading him forward. The trees closed in around them, the silence broken only by the dog's soft whines and the occasional groan of snow-laden branches. Mason's mind raced. Could this be a lost hiker? A stranded driver? He'd heard stories of people disappearing in snowstorms, but he'd never imagined facing such a situation himself. They emerged into a small clearing where the snow was trampled and disturbed. The dog sniffed frantically at a snowbank near the base of a large tree. Mason's heart stopped. A faint sound reached his ears, a weak, muffled cry. He dropped to his knees, brushing away the snow with his gloved hands. "Hold on!" Shouted adrenaline, flooding his system. The dog whined anxiously beside him, its tail beating rapidly. There was someone buried here alive, but struggling. Mason's breath caught as he clawed at the snow, his gloved hands shaking. The German shepherd dug furiously beside him, throwing white powder into the air beneath the layers of ice and frost. A small hand emerged, a child's hand, limp and pale against the stark whiteness. Mason's heart lurched. He brushed away more snow until the child's face was revealed, blue-lipped eyes barely fluttering. The child was wrapped in a thin jacket, woefully inadequate against the cold. "Dispatch, this is Officer Mason," he barked into his radio, his voice breaking. "I've got a child approximately 5 years old, found buried under the snow in the clearing near Route 6. Request immediate medical assistance. The child is unconscious, but breathing." His hands trembled as he checked for a pulse relief washing over him. When he felt the faint, erratic beat, the dog barked sharply, nudging Mason's shoulder as if urging him to act faster. Mason nodded, his mind racing. He shrugged off his heavy coat and wrapped it around the child, cradling the small, frail body against his chest. "Stay with me, little one," he murmured, his breath fogging the child's frozen hair. He stood staggering slightly under the child's weight, but driven by pure adrenaline and the dog's unwavering urgency, he knew time was running out. The child's breaths were shallow, the pulse weakening without the dog's persistence. They never would have found the child in time. Now every second counted. Mason gritted his teeth as he stumbled back through the deep snow, cradling the child tightly against his chest. His boots sank into drifts with each step, the icy wind cutting through his uniform. The German shepherd remained at his side, barking urgently and casting anxious glances behind them. Time was slipping away, and every second felt heavier than the last. His radio crackled. "Officer, Mason paramedics are en route. Estimated time, 6 minutes. Can you make it to the road trying?" Mason gasped, glancing at the barely breathing child. The dog's constant presence drove him forward, its determined gaze almost willing him to keep going. Mason's muscles burned, his breath ragged in the cold air, but he refused to stop. The child's fragile life hung in the balance. The dog darted ahead, barking sharply, leading Mason toward a break in the trees. There he glimpsed the road through the swirling snow, a lifeline. "We're almost there, buddy," he whispered to the child. His voice suddenly, Mason's foot caught on a hidden branch beneath the snow, sending him sprawling. He twisted to protect the child, landing hard on his side. The dog rushed to his side, whining anxiously, gritting his teeth. Mason pushed himself up, his arms aching from the weight of the child. He couldn't let this end here. With one final surge of strength, he followed the dog's lead, emerging onto the road. Just as the flashing lights of the ambulance appeared through the storm, the paramedics rushed forward, their voices sharp and urgent. Mason gently passed the child into their waiting arms, his own hands trembling from exertion and cold. "Found under the snowbank," he gasped, pulses weak but present. The paramedics worked quickly, wrapping the child in warm blankets and administering oxygen. The German Shepherd circled anxiously, its ears flattened and tail low. Watching the scene with worried eyes, Mason leaned against the side of his patrol car, gasping for breath as he watched the paramedics. He felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to see one of the EMTs, giving him a nod. "You did good, officer. You and your dog saved a life today." The words washed over Mason, but he couldn't take his eyes off the child who was beginning to stir under the paramedics' care. A faint color returned to the pale cheeks, and the child let out a soft whimper. The German Shepherd whined softly, its body relaxing just a little as the ambulance doors closed, and the siren wailed into the distance. Mason crouched beside the dog, wrapping an arm around its sturdy neck. "You're a hero," he murmured, his voice choked with emotion. "Without you, we never would have found them." The dog licked Mason's cheek, its body trembling, not with fear, but with relief. Snowflakes continued to fall, but in that moment, they felt like a quiet blessing in the silence that followed. Mason knew one thing for certain. This dog wasn't just a hero. It was a guardian angel. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing and heartwarming stories.